Sooner Nation, what's going on? What's good? And the times that we have right now is the downtime in college football. We have President Trump. We have Nick Saban. We have all this hysteria going on about NIL and the portal. We have OU softball doing what they do best, which is win. Got all this stuff going on, and all of a sudden, Jason Watkins, okay, decides to get on Twitter and piss off every Texas fan that he possibly can. So I say this tonight to you, Jason. This is my challenge to you, okay? Bevo's bodyguard, Ben G, a lot of Texas people are going to be in here tonight. We're not going to ban any of them. If you're going to talk shit, you got to take it too. So my challenge to you is tonight is to show everybody this top 25 that set Twitter on fire yesterday and a little bit of today as well. So for those who think that Jason is just trying to get engagement, I think this man is really, really, really trying to enlighten everybody about what he thinks is truly the top 25. I have my disagreements. I'm sure that Mr. Mason has his as well. But with that being said, guys, how y'all doing?
Fabulous.
Doing fine.
I don't give a shit about pissing off fucking Texas fans. Who gives a shit?
You got to send me that top 25 graphic so I can put it up. But
let me do that for you.
Do you want Joel Klatt's graphic too?
No.
Just as a comp, someone else's opinion.
But what's up, everybody? Before we get into that, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? We're glad that y'all are joining us. This will be another good episode. Got some recruiting with Chris Mason. Obviously, we'll talk about this top 25 and those different things when Jason gets that graphic to me.
Sir, you just hit that screen share.
Oh, excuse me. There we go right there. And here it is, people. This is crazy, okay? But, Jason, the floor is yours, man. Go ahead. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I mean, I think that Notre Dame's the most complete team. They were in the national championship game last year. They're going to have a quarterback that can actually throw. They added some receivers, and they got the same offensive line, probably better offensive line, good defense. It helped them get there last year. I think they're the number one team in the country. Penn State, I probably would have moved them back a little bit, but I mean, we're talking about teams that have a lot coming back. I think the top 4 teams do. Ohio State is a little bit better. I think they got the number 1 defensive player in the country. They got the number 1 offensive player in the country, so I have them at number 5. Yeah. I mean, I guess the one that everybody's really throwing a shit fit about is Texas at 11.
Wait, no. Jason, did you fall down the stairs?
Why?
What the hell is Texas A&M doing at 10?
Look, I think that that's probably a little high, but I think they're better than Texas, man. I just do. They've got guys coming back. They're going to play good defense. I think they're going to beat Texas.
No. Chris Mason. Yes. Texas A&M. How about Notre Dame at number 1?
Whoa, all right. Notre Dame at 1.
There's a lot of things.
First off, Jason's main argument is their offensive line was young last year and hurt, and now they've got Janisu guy? Is that right?
Yeah, they're all back.
Jagasu, is that his name? Charles Jagasu, was that right?
Yeah, I think
so. So they've got an O-line, and their O-line system is working. So in the trenches wise, I'll give them that. I don't know what they're returning in their front 4. They lost Benjamin Morrison, who was a really good cornerback. They lost Xavier Watt, who was a really good safety. So, and we're presuming that Lloyd Carr's kid is who's the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a.
That's not true. That's not true.
Well, I mean, from all the reports and stuff like that, that's who you're hearing is the guy.
Well, the other guy went to Syracuse, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
So it's Lloyd Carr's kid, right?
Yes. Carr. Car.
Okay.
Chris
It's
Mason.
not his kid, it's his grandson. It's his grandson.
Let's do it.
And he
Like,
can rip it.
oh, go ahead. Let's do it like this right here. Let's back up. Let's back up.
All right.
Let's let Jason explain his top 11 teams. I want him to end on Texas.
All right.
And I want him to explain to the Texas.
I just told you what I think. Look, Notre Dame has the same offensive line. It's the best offensive line in the country. They've been having the best defense. They're built in the trenches. They run the ball well. They've got the two best running backs. Probably, if it's not them, it's the number 2 team, Penn State, who has everybody coming back. They got a good defense as well. Tom Allen came over to be their or no, not Tom Allen. Tom Allen left to go to Clemson. They ended up getting what's his name that we thought was going to OU from Ohio State.
Yeah.
Look, I think when it comes down to it, you got Carr that can spin it. Even if they go with the other guy, and I don't think they do, he can throw it too. That's what they've really needed, is somebody that they don't have to you don't have to be a guy that wins every game with your arm if you're Notre Dame. They got a two-headed monster in the backfield that was eating everybody alive last year. They do everything that you're supposed to do to win. So Clemson, I talked about Penn State a little bit, but Clemson, they've got Klubnik coming back. They're going to be good on defense again. They're loving their offensive line and everything too, since they've added talent there. They've finally got a receiving core again to go with Klubnik, and it looks like they're finally allowing Garrett Riley to do his thing offensively. Alabama, I think they're a sleeping giant, man. Year 2 for Kalen DeBoer is going to be. He's got a guy that can throw, and he got Grubb back. Ryan Grubb coming back. I think that was a big deal for them. They're going to be able to run the offense the way that they like to run it. And Alabama's got the most loaded roster in college football. So that's why I have them up there. Ohio State, like I said, the best player on offense, best player on defense in the country play at Ohio State. Plain and simple. I don't think they're going to change a whole lot. Are they the best team in the country? Maybe, maybe not. But I would, you're going to have to wait and see whatever happens with their new quarterback. But, it is what it is. LSU, Garrett Nussmeier is the best quarterback in the country as far as I'm concerned. He could have went in the first round this year. So I think they're going to be loaded. They're always loaded. They got guys that walk out of the swamp to play receiver. Plus they added Nick Anderson and the kid from Kentucky. I forget his name all the time, but I think they're going to be good. I think it all depends on kind of what happens defensively. They did pretty well in both portals. So I think they're going to be okay. Georgia, I don't know, man. They're loaded, but like they always are. But I'm not sure that I really trust them at quarterback. And I don't really trust their receivers either. You could probably flip them in Florida.
So you are not a Gunnar Stockton fan?
I'm not. I don't dislike him. I just don't know that he's. I don't know. He did beat Texas. But it is what it is. Florida right there with them. DJ Lagway may be the best player in the country as well. What we saw from him last year as a true freshman, it is what it is. Texas A&M defense, they play defense. I like their quarterback. I think he's explosive. I think at certain times, I think they owe Texas big, so that's why I picked them right in front of Texas. And mostly it was just a little bit of a ribbing.
Who is the quarterback? Is it going to be Marcel or is
Marcel
it going to be
Reed?
the guy they brought in?
I don't know. I think it's going to be Marcel Reed.
It's going to be Marcel Reed. The other guy left.
Oh, the guy that got in the portal?
Oh, no, they got a guy in the portal. Who is that? What was his name again?
I forgot his name, but I know they got a guy in the portal that they paid money to. So, I mean, if they're just trying to strengthen the room, I get it. But it kind of felt like you were paying that guy to come there and possibly start.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, anyway. I don't know. Defensively, that they're run by a grown-up now at least, And so I felt like they probably should have won the game last year too. But here's the main thing about Texas, and we'll just go to the Texas stuff. You guys are replacing fucking everybody. Everybody. 4 of your 5 linemen. Yes, I know Arch is going to be your savior, according to all you guys. You've replaced most of the guys on the defensive line with a bunch of portal dudes, and we know that you don't get a ton. You get 2 or 3 for the whole year that go in the portal that are very good. Y'all went and added 5 in the spring portal. I don't know what to tell you. I just don't see that you're going to be that great up front. I don't. And I think that you got to go up against some teams that you're going to need to be really good up front, namely Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, Ohio State. They're going to be great up front. So I know that, oh, well, we just reload and do it again down in Austin, but I don't buy it. I think that you have to go out and listen. Here's the main thing. If you didn't go out there and freaking get it done with all the talent that you had, all these people that are in the NFL right now, you just sent 14 to the NFL and 13 last year. Okay, well, I know that you think just because you're replacing them with a bunch of 5-stars, you guys have always done that shit. You've always done that shit. They're still first-time players. If you weren't going to do it with all that, if you weren't going to go ahead and do that with everybody that you have in the last few years, why do I think you're going to go win the Natty with first-year players? I don't buy it. I don't see them as the top 10 team. I don't.
Chris Mason, do you want to respond to that, or do you want to take care of the second half of this list as far as just your thoughts, or do you? I mean, wherever you want to start on it, go ahead.
Well, first off, Jason did a impossible task here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because really, everybody. I mean, when you, I can come up with zingers on every team in the top 10, right? Much more so than years past. Several weaknesses on both sides of the ball for everybody in the top 10 that he listed, right? And Texas, I think, same thing. I think really I'm not sure 1 through 15. And if you want to say OU's not a top 15 team and put somebody else in there, whatever. Okay, fine. But so it's going to be funny. The number 1 team I think Jason is exaggerating on is the team I said. I think Texas A&M sucks. I think they're going to be bad. I don't think Marcel Reed's a very explosive quarterback. I think he's more of a low-key game manager. They lost the bulk of their defensive line to the NFL and linebackers. Their offensive line unit, they've got 1 or 2 decent offensive linemen who came back, but they've got portal players all over the place. If Moss got hurt at the end of last year, and Ruben Owens, Moss hurt his knee last year at the end, and then Ruben Owens is coming back from a knee injury. So their running back core is suspect. Elko, to me, he's an adult at least, right? So he's managing the circus in a professional way, as opposed to
added a lot of talent in the last couple of years. I mean, come on.
They do have. They do, but you look at their front 4. I mean, it's not guys that you really know. I mean, or that they've lost the bulk of their front 4, and the other losses. Plus, they lost a lot of guys in the transition, the coaching transition, which I think will show up in their roster a little bit more. We'll see how the schedule works for them. I think they have an early test, which will be interesting. Lots of these teams have early tests, right? So we'll get a barometer on quite a few of these teams early, which is nice. Penn State at 2. I both see that argument, and if the Pena kid has another 1,000 yards receiving, then yeah, I can see it. But Tyler Warren was a beast for them last year on offense. He was their only passing game difference maker, and he's with the Colts now. Clemson, I understand that they got probably the weaker schedule, although they got to play LSU, I think, week 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll know that. I'm not as high as
we'll find out. We'll find out about both of those teams that day.
Yeah, I'm not as high
about Ohio State and Texas too. Everybody's talking.
We'll see. We'll know what Julian's saying versus Arch, what that matchup looks like. Alabama, I'm not as high on them as Jason. But again, like I said, if you asked me, if you gave me $500 and said bet it in Vegas on someone to win the national championship, I have no idea who the hell I would choose. I mean, Oregon, Dante Moore, and they lost a lot of guys, especially up front on defense. They lost their best tackle, Connerly. They lost a lot in their wide receiver group. They lost a lot of guys. And, is Dante Moore ready to kick ass? I don't know. I mean, that's the key question, right? In the top 10 alone, Georgia, Oregon, Alabama, and Ohio State all have brand new starters or guys who've never played much college football. Add Notre Dame to that. So of the top 10, Notre Dame, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, all have massive question marks at quarterback. The rest of their rosters are in great shape. The back half, I think, was Arizona State just on a heater? Was it just the Scatterbo fever that did that? They've got all the good pieces. I like the quarterback position. I like the coach.
I think they're the best team in the Big 12.
Okay. I can buy that. I don't even know how to understand what BYU is. What's Tennessee? What's Tennessee look like now without Nico, with the Aguilar kid, who I think is pretty average? Texas at 11. I mean, Texas fans, just get right to it. You've lost a lot of very good football players. You've lost a lot on your O-line. The O-line guys behind them aren't proven. That is an objective fact. You have again lost.
It is objective. That's what
Yeah, that's objective. And objectively,
the clown.
You just lost Collins and Broughton to the draft, and you went
right
D-line shopping in spring like the guys you signed in December were worthless. You don't sign 3 more D-line in spring when you sign 2 in December if the 2 guys in December are worth a crap.
Yep.
You just don't. So I think that's, they've lost a lot of good football players. And let's be honest, Arch is an unknown. You can say all you want, but he's an unknown, right? You can say
Manning. Oh,
I mean, we just don't know. He may be fantastic. I have no idea, but anointing him without him having played any. I think the wild card in the back half, Chris, to kind of do what you actually asked me to do.
Mm-hmm.
The back half, the wild card is South Carolina, right? That's the wild card. I think Michigan's going to struggle. Iowa State lost a lot of guys again, so it's hard to know. But you never know what's going on with their recruiting. And obviously, Miami is a wild card with Carson Beck. How does he deal with the Cavender twin kicking him to the curb because he slept with someone else, and then and how does he deal with his Lamborghini getting towed? I'll be personal. I don't think Carson Beck in Miami is anywhere near the transfer that Ward was. I don't think Beck had the world of talent around him and cratered last year. Georgia at 8. Have they fired Mike Bobo and hired a real offensive coordinator, QB coach? No. And there's some worry signs for Georgia and LSU for me. Georgia having to sign an outside linebacker from Army.
Clearly.
What the hell? They've been signing 5-star rush ends forever. And LSU, that's a lot of spring transfers all over the place. What's up with your roster if you have that many holes to fix? In spring with guys who have less time to get acclimated, less time for chemistry and all those other issues. I could see LSU laying another egg.
I mean, you had all this experience the last 2 years and didn't win the shit. Why are we going to expect you to do it now?
Hey, Quentin, we're just talking objectively. We if you've not listened to this podcast,
he can whine it. He's what he does is bitch and whine.
If you don't, we blow holes in OU's weaknesses left and right.
Yeah, he's a whiny bitch, dude.
So OU and if the top 15 listed here, the only quarterback who had probably an objectively better year than Mateer is Nussmeier, and he has him at 6. So what do you want? OU has the number 2 quarterback according to guys, OU homers. The number 2 quarterback in that group of quarterbacks it's probably Sellers is the 3rd one.
The brand has finally returned. F*** your brand.
So I think
being emotional.
I think
it's hilarious.
I think Texas at 11. What's the big deal? You play Ohio State, you go to the shoe, you beat Ohio State, you're in the top 5. But for 11 right now, based upon the fact your quarterback, the only time we've seen your quarterback play a team with a pulse, Georgia's knocking him around like a rag doll. And he has no other football experience that's relevant. None for going to the Horseshoe game 1. So I think it's fine at 11. Again, the mystery, I think the Gators are too high, and I think A&M's too high. I would probably put some separate other team. I'd probably put the ASU at like 9 and South Carolina at 17. Again, I don't like – I think Elko is a good coach, but I think they're just going to be mired in the same mediocrity they have. It's just going to be a different mediocrity. We'll see. He's recruiting really well, but they've always recruited well. I think they had a very favorable schedule last year.
Yeah,
they got it again this year, but it's not quite as it won't be quite that good. Some other teams challenging them. So
I think
that's the one. I guess the question mark I have is A&M at 10 versus South Carolina at 17, and Florida, who did get hot at the end of last year. I'm worried about Lagway's arm a little bit. Ole Miss, I don't know what they are with all the losses and all the portal things that they're trying to plug in. So the real thing, I think, Jason, looking at what you did, and I'll throw it back to Kchris, I had no idea who's winning the national championship, like none. I couldn't even tell you. If you put a gun to my head, I'm not even sure.
We've been saying that. I think that there's probably, there's any number of teams that could win it.
I think the Bevo guy said, let's keep it real. There's no team that is going to be proven next year. Everybody has
including Texas.
Yeah, everybody's got huge gaps. OU has massive gaps. We're not denying that, right? But I think if you put a gun to my head,
line in the country.
Yeah, if you put a gun to my head and said, name the national semifinal, I'd be like a half hour before I could convince myself of 4 teams.
Yeah. So let me jump in here. So we got a Benji, $10. He says, horns down, baby. Usually we would get trolled. We are for real. We are going to win in Columbus just because I'll be there in attendance. We are back. Benji, you're a friend of the show, so we'll let that one slide. Hey, look, real quick. I want to take a little detour, okay? You guys explained this perfectly. I agree on all sides. I think Texas fans have some good comments. I think you guys have some great comments, but at the same time, it's one of those things we're going to have to see. But I'm going to ask a question in here, and if I type this wrong, guys, I don't have my glasses on looking down here in this dark room. But this is a question. Who will have the better season? Dante Moore, Julius Sand, or Ty Simpson? I know me and my uncle, we talked to him. He's like, I thought the kid from Duncanville was going to be starting for Bama. I was like, no. Every report says if season started today, Ty Simpson's the guy.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean shit in a few months from now. I think they're going to have a hard time keeping Keelan off the field.
I understand that. But as far as right now, for the purpose of this chat and this question, and to the chat, I'm asking you guys directly, who is going to have a better season? We don't care about Arch right now. We understand y'all love Arch.
We know that they love Arch.
Leave that alone.
The golden Arch.
As far as just kind of in the top 10, what you're seeing, and obviously I wanted to put K Klubnik, but I think he's more proven than these guys, obviously. But as far as just new incumbent starters, you got a guy who's been there for a while, and Ty Simpson, that people were really excited about when he came. And it's hard to really gauge what he could have done in an offense like Tommy Reese's, Bob's, And now he has a coach and he got Grubb back this year, so he has Ryan Grubb, right? So that's a key piece.
I would probably go with Ty Simpson on this one.
So,
but then again, you've got the best receiving core in the country at Ohio State.
Little Coop says, saying, let's see, Jenna James, Big Jen says, Dante Moore. So this Cowboy says Dante Moore because DeCorian Moore.
He loves his DeCorian Moore, bro.
Yeah,
he loves.
Ziaz says Julian. Richie Dub says saying. Whoa. Benji says good question. I say none. I think St. Clair will end up being the starter by year's end at the Ohio State University.
Well, that's crazy, right? Because I mean, you could be right. Like you just mentioned, 3 guys in the top 10, sort of that need to break out for their teams to really to be playoff contenders, right? For the most part, and at least 2 of them could find their jobs taken by freshmen by the end of the year if they struggle. I think it's Julian Sayin just because he has Hartline's wide receiver room to make him look good. And I do worry about Ohio State's offensive line and obviously at running back, but they've gotten some transfers in and running back is probably a position they've been recruiting good players at as well. So I think Sayin, I'm not sure what we're going to get from DeBoer with Grubb and Ty Simpson and all that back in year 2, right? It should be significantly better. But the Keelan Russell kid is Penix-like, right? With the arm, mobility, and playmaking. At least he was out of high school. He had a lot of weapons.
Super mobile, but he's got a big arm though.
So I think Ziaz had a great comment when he said Julian Sayin because obviously he's going to be playing with weapons like Jeremiah Smith. So you can't discount what that receiving core is going to look like.
The best NFL prospect in the country.
I get that. Let me finish my point. So what I don't. The only thing about Ohio State is, and here's just another question for everybody. Do you guys believe Hartline will be a really good offensive coordinator? I think that's kind of the question as far as right now. Like,
I don't think it's a huge move for him, right? I mean,
I don't think it is either.
I mean, he's been around. He was around Chip last year. He's been around Ryan Day and everything that they've been doing in the last. I mean, he's been there for 7 years, something like that. A while, long enough to where he's been getting the best receivers in the country. I don't think that it's going to be a big switch. I think you kind of, he's going to have to find his rhythm or whatever calling plays, I believe. But and again,
they're more worried about their defense, to be honest.
The thing
they got more back on defense than they got on offense, though.
Yeah.
And again, when you've got they had a bunch of dudes that they've been getting as far as they've been killing it in that area anyway because of their secondary coach and some of these other guys that they really liked. I don't feel like Ohio State loses a ton on the defensive side, and especially when you still got.
Well, they lost their entire front. They
got Ethan down.
So what I'm wondering about
may not be great. Yeah.
So what I'm wondering about Oregon with Dante Moore is that we know they're going to love that short game, that West Coast type of feel to the offense out there. Can they stretch the field with him? The reason why
he's got a bigger arm than your boy did.
The reason why I lean more towards a Ty Simpson is simply because obviously I think Grubb is back, but I think that he can unlock something of that offense that you were kind of begging for if you were a Bama fan last year, which is the intermediary game. Which don't get me wrong, there were times where. And that's why I think the Seahawks picked him up. And I know me and you kind of disagreed about that, but I think Milroe has probably the most upside out of most of the guys that were drafted this year as far as quarterbacks. simply because if you could get him to read the field, go through his reads, his progressions, and like a,
I think he's got work to do. I think athletically speaking, there's not very many people that are more athletic.
He's got work to do, but if he can figure it out and put things together, I don't see why it may take a second for him, but as long as he has a chance, I think he could be successful. But
I think in Alabama, though, they've now got, they're not going to be one dimensional where if he doesn't get going, if he didn't get going with his legs, he wasn't they were gonna take away the pass from him.
Well, the thing about it is with Ty Simpson is that I think that because of just, the way the offense was supposed to be as far as, Tommy Reese, but Nick Saban is there over his shoulder. Bob, not really giving court. It's all these different systems, but I think this is a system that would be friendly for him to actually grow, prosper, and do all those different things before our eyes, simply because whenever you watch him play, at least in my mind, I know that it wasn't much. I know sometimes it come just spells because, old boy's helmet would come off, stuff like that, little timeout stuff, or even the South Florida game. That really wasn't the greatest thing, but it always seemed like he was gun shy, like he was a bit timid out there, like not taking command of the team. I think this will be a chance for him to really show that. Obviously, the Keelan kid, they got guys there that could probably take over.
Hold on, Kchris. You're not getting away with not talking about where Texas is at. Do you think they're at the top 5 team?
I will talk about that in a second. I just wanted
No. I want you to talk about it now. That's what we're talking about.
I just wanted to finish this, man. Look, let me finish my point. I lean towards Ty Simpson. I think Ty Simpson is probably the guy who has the chance to have the most successful season out of Julian Sayin and Dante Moore. That's just my thoughts right there. I
like Dante a lot. I think Dante's good, but I'd probably say one of the other two guys. They both got.
Well, the last time we saw Dante, he looked like Kentucky Fried Ass.
Yeah, but he was at fucking UCLA. It all looks like
I'm just saying. I understand. I'm just saying the last time we saw him, he didn't look very good.
Yeah, but he's now with Will Stein, and they, hell, dude, he turned Bo Nix into a first rounder.
I'm with you. I'm just saying on the Dante Moore thing, our last Dante Moore view was bad. Now he's got a lot of I think
what did Bo Nix look like last time you saw him before he popped up at Oregon?
Well, I'm convinced it's actually a different person. So it's not the same person, but we'll see. I mean, Bama, corporate duck. Yeah, the good O-line, but they lost Booker, who was their best offensive lineman. Everyone's going crazy around Proctor. I think Proctor is still too heavy and too slow at tackle and got abused last year at tackle. Again, maybe, so, I mean, I don't know. I'm having a hard time separating Bama from the team that got their ass kicked in Norman by our worst team in 10 years. I mean, I'm having a hard time separating those two images from my mind. So we'll see. But I think, Chris, you got good points about asking which one of those quarterbacks is going to have the best season. They've all got, other than Moore, they've all got freshmen. They're both Simpson and Sayin have got hotshot freshmen breathing down their neck. I tended to lean with Ohio State. I still think Ohio State's lost more on defense than Jason realized. I mean, their entire front four got drafted, for crying out loud. And that was
their back seven. Their back seven is really good, though.
Which one would you rather have, a veteran front four or veteran back seven?
Probably front four. Okay. But they're playing in the Big Ten, though.
Well, okay. So that's something else. So when you look at this number, I mean,
they also have Larry Johnson as their defensive line coach, who is the godfather of D-line coaches.
But you still
they go and get a bunch of scrubs.
They've got good guys. I'm just saying it's unproven, right? It's unproven.
Sure, just like Texas is.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's the same thing. So
we'll get to see week 2. I cannot wait for week 2.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating game. I mean, it is not, in the past, it would be removing the margin of error for either team for the 4-team semifinal, right? That's what that game would be. Now you can drop that game, and if you're Texas, not really worry about it because you have the easy SEC schedule that you have. Which I think
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about week 2. Week 2, we get to see Oregon against Oklahoma State, the battle of the combo unis. So I'm really excited.
Is Ohio State Texas week 1?
Yeah,
it is.
Okay, sorry. Well, week 1, and then you got OU Michigan, and then you've got OSU Oregon. Okay. I mean, if it's a kind of stupid game, Gundy will win for no reason, right?
No, he won't.
No,
he won't.
Well, maybe 10 years ago. Maybe 10 years ago, it was this.
Come on, man. Let's stop playing.
Maybe it's 10 years ago, it was a stupid game Gundy would win. I don't even know who their quarterback's going to be, so couldn't even tell you. So I like Jason's poll. I mean, again, the first 15 teams in the country, just shake them up and throw them out. Every one of them has gaping holes in their roster. That elite guys that were the reason why they were top 10, top 12 teams last year. If you're asking me for a national semifinal right now, it would probably be Ohio State versus Notre Dame with Clemson versus LSU or Georgia. So I gave you 5 teams there. Those are if you ask me based on what Jason just says post spring, says fast forward to November 30th, who do you think would be the top 4 teams projected to be in the semifinal? I would say Notre Dame, Clemson, only because of their schedules helping them fill their gaps, right? They'll be able to fill their gaps without taking too many losses. And then I'd go probably Georgia and Ohio State.
Yeah, I think LSU. The only thing that worries me about them is the defense, and Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly just I don't know that it's working there for them. So I'm not sure that I trust them. I think they should be really good, but
yeah, I don't like all the second spring portal additions. That worries me for a team. Like, okay, after spring, you realize you have all these gaping holes in your roster because the talent in the spring was not elite.
Right.
OU grabbed the elite guy in Ott, the playmaker in Ott, and Nico technically was the number 2 guy, but that was a breakup, weird situation type thing. It wasn't like he was like on a high note hitting it and just getting a huge bag from somebody. So there's some gaps with these rosters. That's where I think you go. You go 2 SEC. One SEC team makes it into the Power 4, into the top 4 again because they beat each other all up, and they just can't grind through the playoffs like they were before. And I'll go with Georgia just because I think they have the most balanced roster and more. I just Kirby Smart versus DeBoer. I think Kirby defenses them up and takes them out this year, as opposed to what happened last year. But again. You could tell. So you could argue. You could 30 minutes from now. I could argue 4 other teams equally as well. I have no idea. It's as wide open as college football has ever been right now.
I think it is too. I think that I don't know, man. I think there's probably 10, 12 teams that could theoretically do it.
And Texas is one of them. If Arch plays out his ass, and
they're going to have to do a lot. But but again, if I would expect them to do it if they had done it already. You don't have even close to. I want this to go to Kchris though. Where do you have them?
Where do I have Texas?
Yeah. Would you have them in the top 5 or do you because again, there are a bunch of new dudes out there and there's a lot of good things that are going to happen for them for them to be the best team in the country. I think everybody else has just kind of defaulted them to number 1 and I don't know why.
To be honest with you, just kind of going off of how they finished last season, how they kind of played or whatnot, I would definitely have South Carolina probably somewhere up there closer to the top 10.
I don't buy them.
But you're asking me for Texas, and I'll go ahead. You know how I am. I'm unfiltered. I don't care. I think that 11 is perfectly fine for them, but I am uncomfortable with saying that Texas A&M is ahead of them and possibly Florida at this time. So maybe you could interchange them between 9 and 11. I think 11 is fine. I think 11 is fair, especially for us. Just at just every reason that you gave, I think that's a great reason. I think, hey, look, I think Arch has a chance. He has the potential to be really good. Okay, but at the same time, the thing that I'm wondering, just he's not a finished product, and I think that people need to understand that. As you guys want to call Mateer, I saw somebody in here calling him Mountain West champ Mateer. I'm telling you now, some of the best games that your hero and savior had was against lesser competition.
Yeah, ULM.
So it's just one of those things. Offensive line, I know you guys feel like you got 5 stars and people like that and all the rest of that stuff, but Kelvin Banks is not there. I mean, there's some questions. There's a lot of questions on that side. Is Baxter going to be healthy? Are you guys ready to crown Wisner as the guy? I know you guys had another running back that was injured as well. Wide receivers are young, but they're going to be good. It's Sark, so I'm not necessarily worried about the offense. I think he's going to be able to put something together and be able to figure something out to be able to score a bunch of points and flurries and stuff like that. But those are things that you definitely want to know.
When you go up against good defensive fronts, then what? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those things where you're saying that. I think defensively, yeah, you guys are going to be fine. I think that you have guys coming back. I am not the biggest Michael Taft fan. Never have been, never will be, but that's okay. Hill coming back, that's great. Colin Simmons coming back, that's great. Texas fans, if you can, please answer this one question. Quentin, if you're still in here, answer this for me. My brother, okay? Can you get production out of Trey Moore, what you paid for? Because that to me is what could take your defense to another level if you can get a real pass rush from him. Because I know that you guys were high on him early once you got him from UTSA, but it kind of really simmered down and cooled down as far as what all my Texas brethren were telling me towards the end of the year. So to me, I think that's what could take you guys to the next level. The D tackle thing or whatnot, Chris Mason, I think that's yet again a great point. You got 2, then you go out there and get 3. So that kind of, makes me worried a little bit, but we know that you guys are just having them be run stuffers. They're not necessarily there to have that production that Sweat and Murphy had. Were we 2 years removed from that now?
Yeah, but Broughton and Collins gave you the same level of production. I mean, all I'm saying is if OU had signed 2 D-line guys in January, right, to replace our 2 starters, all right, and then OU signed 3 more in the spring portal, we would be freaking the fuck out. Like, what the hell is wrong with our D-line? What's going on? Are they getting their ass handed to them by the O-line? What the hell is going on? We would be freaked out. I'm just telling you, I can guarantee you, we would be freaked out.
Yeah, of course.
Legitimately. And the young D-line that Texas has signed, the young O-line, D-line Texas signed are all good players, but they're mostly redshirt freshmen and freshman types that just are unproven, right? I mean, we think David Stone could be all SEC. But if you ask me, is it proven? I would say no. We are projecting greatly. Texas has some very talented guys. The year before they didn't sign, the D-line guys weren't great. You've had some transfers out, lost some players already. But yeah, it's the D-line interior. Look, Kotowski's scheme relies on stuffers in the middle. Mm-hmm. If people can run inside on Texas, that defensive scheme does not work. And you know how we know that? Because we saw Kennedy Brooks go for 200 yards when we had an O-line that could create creases inside off tackle, right? I mean, we did. So he went for 230 yards or 245 or whatever it was. So it can happen. You can run on Texas if the interior D-line guys aren't. If they can't control the interior, then the whole scheme falls apart. So that's why That's why I would be worried. And then Texas, their O-line, you lost some good guys. Gooseby looks like he's going to be a good player. But the rest, you've just lost a lot of leadership and a lot of starts on the offensive line. And trust me, as OU fans, we know that's not just a plug-and-play fix sometimes. We couldn't replace Rame and, the tackles we lost, and it ended up killing our entire season because we didn't have centers or tackles because we got hurt. So the margins on Texas are reduced as opposed to last year. Will it all work? It could, but I think 11 and any regular season, any regular year, 11 would be fine. You just lost everything. You lost your quarterback, although obviously Ewers had a trashy year, got hurt, and didn't play very well. So I think Texas at 11 is fine. If you look at the other teams he put up there, like I said, I'm going to have a chat with Jason after the call about the A&M at 10.
And Notre Dame at 1.
Notre Dame at 1. I don't. At this point, there are like 8 teams that give me 1. Just throw a dice. I'll take Notre Dame at 1 based upon what he said. But A&M, Marcel Reed's not a good quarterback. Elko is not an offense. Not going to let them really open the ball up that much. And defensively, they've lost a load of defensive line talent. So I just don't know how they make that work. But again, I told you what I thought my end of the year top 4 would be. But if you told me it was Oregon versus LSU versus Alabama versus Arizona State, I'd be like, all right. Bevo's bodyguard, Ethan Burke's not starting at OU.
No, I mean, look at this right here. So Bevo's bodyguard, like you saying, you guys are scrambling. It's not that we're scrambling; it's obvious. It's what everybody else is saying. I mean, I think once you kind of get to the nitty gritty, obviously people are going to have you guys ranked higher than 11. But I think people are still going to ask these questions just to build that narrative.
They don't know who else to put, right? Everybody's got these massive gaps.
Yeah,
and teams are giving Arch a huge break. They're pretending like he has 10 starts under his belt of winning football against elite competition, and he doesn't.
This is the only point out of this right here. Like all the Texas fans, I knew that this was going to be a crazy pie for you guys, and you guys are going to be going crazy. But Benji, come on, man, ball.
Whiny.
Hey, you're way better than this right here. Talking about FCS additions.
It's kind of.
I remember a few years ago when you guys had Casey Thompson and all the rest of that stuff, and OSU came back and I mean they whooped your ass. And let's be real, it was a bunch of FCS, it was a bunch of D2, and probably a couple of D3 teams, D3 kids on that team. So I don't necessarily know why we are acting like FCS, D2, or any of these kids can't come here and ball out whenever it's all about intangibles and this and that. Benji, you're a brother of the show. We can't have that. Ball. Come on, man. Stop doing that. Don't do that to yourself. What are you doing, bro?
Yeah, I mean, you've got
worst above average. Why do you say that? What tells you that? Just because his last name is Manning?
It's if his last name was Koklowski, he'd be a ditch digger. I mean, come on. So Jason, you didn't like Forrest Sawyer last week, but you have Baylor at number 21. Why?
Because they're doing the same thing they did last year. They're going to call their own defense. What's his name?
Aranda,
yes. Calling the defense. And I just didn't like him as far as like in my top 10 or whatever.
Okay.
As far as that goes. But I mean, I don't think he's terrible. And I think Baylor, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We can sit here and talk about the Big 12 all day long, but it's probably a crapshoot in that freaking conference, to be honest with you. I think the best teams are the two that I have the highest up there, be Arizona State and K-State. And I think that K-State, if Avery Johnson makes a step forward with Matt Wells calling the plays, which I think he will, I think they've got a good chance of winning that conference too. So I think BYU, I love their coach. I don't love their quarterback, but I think that they were pretty good last year with the same quarterback. So I think that they have a chance to kind of take a step forward as well. But I don't love the Big 12, to be honest with you. The rest of them.
It's a crapshoot, right?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I think Matt does a good job at Iowa State. I mean, I don't know. And the SMU, I guess I could probably move them up a little bit, but except that they didn't play anybody but 2 teams last year, and they lost to both of them. They lost to BYU.
Is that quarterback back?
Yes, yeah.
That may not be a positive for him, though.
I have one last question off of this right here, about to put it in the chat. I think this is a quick yes or no for everybody, so let's go ahead and do this. Can Drew Aller, how you say his name, take Penn State to the promised land? Promised land is a national championship, folks.
No.
Is he that guy? Can he do it?
No.
I gotta see them win in conference before I'm gonna say any of that shit. They gotta beat Ohio State. They gotta beat the good team, Oregon, whatever. You gotta beat those teams before I say that. Yeah. I think it's not so much about Drew Aller as it is about Franklin.
Is that what you guys think is holding them back?
I think that they're loaded. I mean, and they even added receivers. I think that they're pretty loaded when it comes to that. Defense is really good. They've got 2 really good running backs. If you put it in his hands, does he win it? I don't know. I mean, we have to see him do it, and I haven't seen him do it. They had every chance in the world to beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game that they lucked into and gagged it away.
I mean, I kind of have to ask Bevo's bodyguard, if that's the case, then why are they second?
I think if you start looking at who they have a lot of talent back, I think that they're going to be in the playoff. I think that who's going to beat them aside from maybe Ohio State? I think they're going to be in the playoff, and I think that, you know, I don't love Drew Aller, but I don't hate Drew Aller either. I just don't think that they've put – here's the one thing. I will say this. I think part of the reason that I have them up as high as I do, I think Kotelnicki in year 2 maybe it does turn that offense around, because that's been their issue. Is that they haven't had – they didn't even – what was it? In the game against Notre Dame, they didn't even have a wide receiver make a catch. Not even a catch. But they added a few guys that they like. We'll see what they turn into. Do I think they're going to win the Natty? No, I think I don't. But I do think they're one of the better teams in the country. It's just when it gets down to the end, do they win it all? No.
Yeah. I mean, my concern is Franklin. You know, I mean, the only worse game day coach than Franklin is obviously my friend in Miami.
Mario Cristobal,
the worst game day coach in America.
Yeah.
You know, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory whenever he feels like it, with a plum and just with amazing ability. So Kotelnicki year 2, yeah, I think it could be interesting, but I just don't see Aller being so. Okay, so if Baker Mayfield is clutch college quarterback with a score of 10, I think Drew Aller is stuck in the 7s.
Yeah, but again, we haven't seen him with a really good receiving core either. And this is they definitely have the best offensive coordinator they've had in a while.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just not sure when I watch him, I just don't see that guy. That it stuff.
I feel the same way there. Yeah.
But I'm not sure I'm not sure
they still win 11 games a year, though. They still win 11 games a year.
Well, they're out talenting folks by a wide margin, because Franklin's a great recruiter, and their strength and conditioning staff are elite. So those guys on the hoof look unreal, right? Yeah. And they're getting drafted that way. I'll be honest, this may sum it up best. Of the top 10 teams that Jason listed here, I don't think any of them, the only guy right now I think has that elite it factor at quarterback right now, not having seen Sayan or Simpson or Moore play lately, it's Lagway. Lagway's the only guy that's got that it factor. Like, whoa, okay. That's it. That's the top 10 teams. Haven't seen Carr, haven't seen Sayan. Klubnik is very, very good. He got a lot better last year. Got a good offensive coordinator. Does he have it? I don't know. Does Aller have it? I haven't seen it.
I think Cade played really well last year. I think that they
did. They didn't do great. I mean, they
were 9-3. They blew a game or two. I mean, but one of their losses was to Georgia.
Yeah, and they flopped around against Texas, right?
Yeah. They couldn't stop the run. That's why they,
that was
their biggest problem.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that's Chris. That would be my concern if I'm betting on any of these teams. Is I don't love what they have at quarterback with a playmaker. They don't have a guy. I'm like, I can see them. Guys can see that guy winning the national championship. But I didn't think Will Howard was that guy either. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I completely don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm not alone in the belief that.
Here's the thing about clubs, though. I mean, you look at Klubnik, they've got the receivers now. That's the biggest problem that Clemson was having.
From
DJU on was that they just weren't getting those same guys anymore.
No,
that receiver, right? They just weren't.
But Antonio Williams,
they've got like 3 guys that are dogs. I mean, really, really good.
They've got some players. So it's defensively, I'd steal Woods for the OU defense in a heartbeat, right? Always have said I'd steal Pete Woods.
I love that Peter Woods, man. He's a stud.
Up on the D. So they've got the D-line guys probably, So, and then their schedule's favorable. I mean, we'll know a lot. If they can put pressure on Nussmeier and put points up on LSU and win that game, because Brian Kelly always seems to somehow find a way to lose their first game of the year, big matchup. So
that's my concern with LSU. I think they're loaded with talent.
But it's not just before that game would have reduced the margins for them. But now, they just But I do worry defensively. I have a buddy who.
What are they going to do with Lawson? I mean, are they going to let him go rush the quarterback, or are they going to make him play what he's going to play in the NFL? Who gives a fuck what he's going to do in the NFL? Rush the quarterback if I'm them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So I do think. Somebody I know who watches a lot of film says that LSU's defensive pickups in the spring portal very suspect, very suspect. So we'll see. We'll see what actually happens.
That and Brian Kelly just not really.
Yeah, and then
he hasn't been all that since he's got to LSU. I know they got a Heisman, but and they played for the conference championship. But come on, man.
Yeah,
if Coach O can win a natty at LSU,
Joe Burrow won them a national championship. Let's just be real.
He did. They were loaded. Oh, they were freaking.
You give me 2 Hall of Fame. You give me 2 Hall of Fame NFL wide receivers on the same team, plus a quarterback, and I'll win you all the fucking games too. So Chris, I don't know about you, but the teams look very QB vulnerable to me, and that makes me wonder where they're going to end up at the end of the year. What's going to go on with them?
No, I mean, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and best believe out of this group of teams here, somebody has to emerge and be and be a team that could be consistent, because there's a lot of holes on this list all over, but at the same time, we'll figure out then. Let's remove this. Let's move on. Are we going to recruiting next, or is there another topic that you guys wanted to talk about real quick? We've been on here for about 58 minutes, people.
Well, we were talking about a little bit earlier about Ketch and what he was saying about all this recruiting stuff. This idea that OU's not getting playmakers and big time. You don't hear a lot of. He keeps saying that, they're on the way down and all this other stuff. And that's the same kind of shit that you're hearing from all these Texas people too. But I was watching this show yesterday. I was just like, what? I know it was engagement stuff or whatever. That's what he does. But wow. You know what I mean? Dude, I don't give a shit about you Twitter bums. I don't care. You guys can say that.
I think that's kind of the thing is that, it's summer. Ketch needs a whipping dog. That's just kind of what they do or whatnot. But I mean, it kind of is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, he's okay. If he said BV will be fired after this season, dude, go back and listen to our Navy game recap.
Yeah.
Listen. I mean, no, but what he was talking about was I mean, like saying that stuff about Nagy, that his skill set is finding under the radar guys from small colleges and stuff or whatever. And I'm like,
well, that's moronic. What? That's moronic.
Right. Yeah. And then, and acting like
he has that.
It was a huge mistake from Fasusi to go to the best offensive line coach in the country. That's stupid, he said. It was football wise, it was the stupidest thing he could have ever done. This is what I'm saying is a lot of bullshit stuff that comes out there.
I mean, does Nagy have the ability to scout lower college levels and find elite players? Yes. But sure, he was also scouting big time college programs and finding elite players.
That shit about Mateer not he literally called Mateer freaking Diego Pavia.
So let me use a really old reference. I've seen Diego Pavia. I've watched Diego Pavia. John Mateer is no Diego Pavia.
No.
He can't throw.
And he can't throw. Saying he can't. That's what he was saying, though. He can't throw. That he's not going to be able to throw in the SEC and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, he had, over 4,000 yards last year. He led the country in touchdowns. I know that, you can say whatever you want about where he played. Guys come from everywhere and end up doing very well.
So last time I recalled, Vandy didn't have a wide receiver chosen in the first 3 rounds of the NFL.
They did not.
Washington State did. And that's all because of John Mateer getting Kyle Williams the ball in space to make big plays and hitting him in stride. So sorry about that. But yeah, so here's the issue. What it looks like, because everyone's freaking out about the fact OU has no verbals and freaking out about OU making all these new offers and freaking out about OU dropping some kids that they've been recruiting for a while. You just brought in a new talent evaluator, and guess what he's doing? He's evaluating the talent in high school football now. The portal's over. Nagy and his staff are reviewing high school talent and making new offers and emphasizing different players and dropping some players. And every one of the new offers they're making, guys, the measurables are there. I watched a lot of high school film, and there's only one offer where I was a little bit like, okay, what are you doing here? And it was the Wisconsin linebacker. That was it. Ben Wenzel. Who's super physical. I just wonder if he has the speed sideline to sideline to handle the SEC. But he'll go to Wisconsin and be an old Big Ten linebacker who they end up getting drafted probably. You've got to look at the guy they just offered. Everyone's like, well, why are we offering these Arkansas guys? Watch the film. The defensive end they just offered from Arkansas, Marcus Nelson. He runs the 60-meter high hurdles, and he's 6'5", 215. Okay, and he plays, and he plays like that. He is super twitchy, super long. This is what Nagy wants. Nagy knows what defensive ends in the NFL look like.
Saying that that's what I was talking about with Ketch. You're going to sit there and talk that shit. He's been in the NFL on championship-winning teams, scouting their talent for 25 years.
Exactly. I mean, he knows what an NFL defensive end looks like.
Right.
So the Nelson kid, and then they offered this kid with this T. Ron Richardson. Is that his name? I need to double check. Before I get it wrong. T. Ron Richardson. He's from Virginia. He's 6'5", 285. Okay. And he's flying all over the field. Is he raw? Yes. But you put 20 pounds on him, he's 6'5", 305. And he's an elite 3-tech. The Daniel Norman kid they just offered from Florida, another defensive end. Again, I just saw him next to Chavis. They had dinner together. Chavis, we know, is 6'5", and this Norman kid is the same height as Chavis or taller. And he's got a huge wingspan, and he's twitchy as old get out in his highlights. He's an elite-looking defensive end. The Dallas Dickerson wide receiver they offer from Georgia. He's He plays good competition in South Georgia. He runs a 10-300 meters. And on film, he is fast as shit. He's pulling away from everybody. Guys who have athletic players who I've seen elsewhere when they rosters they're playing are loaded with players going to the SEC and the ACC, and this kid is pulling away from everyone. And he's got serious wiggle, but the issue is that I think OU learned last year to their detriment. You can't get away with a midget wide receiver core. You just can't, not in the SEC. Cornerbacks are too big. They're too athletic. You've got to have bigger guys.
Yep.
But if you're going to take a smaller wide receiver, like a Dallas Dickerson who's 6'1", 180 pounds, it's got to be a guy who is a burner, an absolute elite burner. And Mason James, who the OU sort of appears to be backing off, isn't big, and he's not a burner. He's an excellent wide receiver. But OU, and I think Nagy's saying, look, we can't gamble. We can't gamble in the middle any longer. We've got to have the guys that can do this down over down and have the elite speed. Somebody mentioned Jaden Warren. Hopefully OU figures out how to get him on campus. Again, kid runs a 10-300. He's 6'2", 180. The guy they're trying to get from Georgia, the other guy, Dandridge, again, his film, the kid is a blur. He is 6'1", 175 pounds, could easily put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle and still be a blur. So we want Elijah Thomas's and we want Giovanni Gibson's. That's who OU's recruiting at wide receiver. If they fit in that bucket, then OU's going to bring him in. Jenna James mentions Jordan Clay. Again, he's 6'4", 190 pounds. If they can keep the Odom kid, he's 6'2", 185, 190, and he's got speed. So OU's changing some things up, finding different players, and making different guys focus. But OU always has made their verbal commitments in June. I've been trying to tell you guys in this podcast, expect OU to have more slots available for recruiting in the fall. Because if OU rebounds, John Mateer plays well, OU plays well, goes into the fall, and goes late into the fall with a chance to be 8-4, 9-3, then OU will be able to flip some kids. And OU is also, one last brand new comment for you. I've talked to the golden bat phone source. Chris will tell you when that phone rings, it is usually 80 to 75% right. It's not, it's not 100% right. Nobody is. It told me that OU was going to get Lance Mason, the tight end, who ended up choosing Wisconsin. And that was because Wisconsin just out-recruited OU. And he said that OU NIL is poised to go head-to-head with – we're not going to load up in the winter portal, Benji. We're just not. It's not going to happen. We're not going to – depends on what happens. If we have a new coach, who the hell knows? But Brent won't be loading up in the winter portal if you think about the way the roster's set up right now. But OU is ready to go head-to-head with anybody in the nation for playmakers Nagy identifies. So I don't think OU is getting Felix Ojo, but OU is going to go to the mattresses if they feel like he's another Fasusi. I don't know where they view him. I don't have privy to that information, but OU's NIL is in great shape to compete for the elite guys they want. So we'll see what happens in June. We'll see what happens this fall. But a lot of it, guys, winning solves all problems, especially recruiting problems. Okay, if OU looks better on the field this fall, then you'll see a recruiting bump. It's like Florida had a big December last year in recruiting because they played better at the end of the year. They had a pulse. Benji, OU's NIL has always been fine. Why do we have Michael Fasusi? Why do we have David Stone? Why do we have PJ Adewale? Why do we have Peyton Bowen? Why do we have 5-star guys? So, why did Aljur Miles choose Smoo? Because SMU recruited him really well and gave him a big bag. We'll see if it sticks, and we'll see if OU tries to flip him. So, doesn't make if having to re-sign Stone is immaterial to the fact that we signed him in the first place. So one thing can be true versus another thing. If you'd actually listened to our show about it, I explained the situation. But if you're not going to listen and learn, then there's nothing I can do for you. Reading and listening are fundamental. And listening to our show every week, also fundamental.
Which we appreciate, even the Texas fans. This is kind of weird right here. This is very weird behavior here. Benji, Bevo Bodyguard, all you guys, look, y'all got to do better than this. Whatever guy is sitting behind his screen and acting like Joy Taylor, it's insane.
It's nasty work, but it's funny.
That is diabolical in itself. That is very weird behavior. Somebody, y'all Texas fans, y'all need to figure that out. Y'all got to police that. That's kind of weird.
I mean, it's rich coming from allegedly your best young offensive lineman, stoned out of his mind, pulled over and blabbing to the cops about the fact that you guys are doing 1990 Colorado style strip club shows with recruits.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. Is Sark's daughter sleeping with recruits? I mean, are you pulling the full Bill McCartney here?
Yikes! Sark didn't have a daughter, but
I'm just saying, it's awfully rich based upon the shenanigans you've been pulling lately. But again, you guys are recruiting very well. You're signing really good players. This isn't new. This isn't different. It's just now you have an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator that aren't clueless. Yeah, but you got lucky because when you dumped vodka cocaine boy to hire Sark, that was not. Again, I'm making a Colorado analogy, but Benji. The story from your offensive lineman is out there. It's just out there. I'm not making that up. So it's just not. So, let's Herman. You're the guy you shit canned because you were concerned about his substance abuse problems.
Yes.
Okay, we are look
officially off the rails now.
I already knew what was going on. I already knew what was going to happen. This is, obviously one of the 3 shows that's on here right now. You got the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with Jason and the coach. Shout out to the coach. Got Sooners 360 with Mr. Sooners 360 himself, Chris Mason. And of course, guys, Horns Down Podcast. If Nick and Steven were to see this, y'all Texas faithful and y'all heroes, not Orangebloods. We know y'all really don't mess with Orangebloods like that. But if they saw this, they would say, just watch Chris smile the whole time because you know what he's trying to do. You know what he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Horns Down Podcast. Horns Down always. Y'all got to understand.
The brand has finally returned. Your brand.
But I will say, though, Texas at 11, they could be higher, could be lower. I don't know. It's a lot of season to be played, people, and we haven't even got there yet.
I mean, did any of us not just say that? Jason did a great job at just throwing a top 25 together. If you asked me to go, and I'd probably just have a dartboard and spin it around and put a blindfold on. I mean, the gaps across the elite teams in college football are gaping as opposed to the last 10 years.
And I think the thing that, and to the Texas fans, just talking directly to you guys as well, I think the thing is that, look, we get the questions that you guys have about OU. All hate aside. We know you don't like BB and all the rest of the stuff. That's perfectly fine. Maybe you got questions about material, all the rest of those different things. That's perfectly timed. Now is the time to have questions about different teams simply because a lot of people are starting over. What y'all and what other people were calling their best teams to go win a national championship didn't necessarily go win a national championship. Ohio State did, right? So outside of a, Notre Dame, which I'm still not necessarily comfortable with going with them simply because I know their defense is going to be stellar, but just offensively, what are they going to be? That was his best shot with the best quarterback he's had there, there's just a lot of questions. Penn State, is James Franklin in the way, or is it Drew Aller, or what's going on? You go out there and get Colton Necky. So what's going on? So there's a lot of questions.
Penn State lost 2 top 15 NFL draft picks. Warren was awesome.
Yeah.
And the edge guy whose name escapes me, I don't know why, he was awesome as well.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're not, again, how do you figure out where, the gaping holes on the rosters, Ohio State maybe has the most talent base to absorb it.
Yeah.
But they're still young at quarterback. I mean, guys, after Jackson Arnold went completely crapola, do you really trust any of these 5-star ballyhooed guys? I mean, I'm not saying that Ohio State doesn't have all kinds of weapons around him, right? All kinds of weapons, but he could really be struggling. So I don't. And you switch to a true freshman quarterback midseason. That's not a recipe for a national championship, at least not usually. I mean, Jamel did it, and I think probably some guy at Tennessee did it, but it's not the recipe for how you get there.
I think one of the things also is just a simple fact of we know that the top 25 is going to look a lot different. Like I said, I think there are going to be teams on there that are way too high. South Carolina will be one of them. I think Clemson will be one of them as well. Season's definitely going to have to check out. Texas is probably going to be 1 or 2 when those final when the AP poll finally comes out. But as a lot of OU fans, there's a lot of Texas fans, there's a lot of college football fans. Rankings really don't mean too much, especially in those first couple of weeks. But this may be one of the seasons where it actually does, simply because I think you're going to have better measuring sticks right off the bat because there's not going to be too much that you can hide. OU second week against Michigan. However you feel about Michigan, Michigan's going to be
It's a test for Michigan too, and Bryce Underwood, right? If BV makes him look like the crying freshman he could be and confuses him all game, OU fans could go crazy thinking, well, that's great, but then Michigan could end up not being good at all. So the portal and everything going on with the portal has evened the rosters out in college football, right? And it's evened out teams' ability to fix gaps, and it's made teams' development of younger players hasn't been occurring as frequently as much as it needs to. So when a team loses a lot of folks, you just don't know what their young, talented 5-star kids are going to do because they haven't been playing. So it's, OU got Mateer and Ott, probably the best quarterback running back combo in the portal, and still don't know what. If our O line's not fixed, it's still not going to. It's not going to get us where we need to be.
Sure.
So it's going to be crazy out there, and
active.
And OU is going through a absolute sausage grinder of a process this offseason with a new GM. Working with Brent on every facet of talent and roster building to redo how OU does this. And doing all this in front of a season where Brent is coaching for his job, it's makes it an even more ugly sausage process. So we don't know what we're going to get out of this. So if you think OU fans are like, we're super confident we're beating Texas and Michigan and we're going to be 9-0 going into November, you're obviously not listening to this podcast or listening to OU fans. Yeah. We realize the gaps in our team. We realize where we could be. But the problem is that everybody else has got these gaps too and different issues. And and other stuff. So it's going to be a, Texas could get blown out in the shoe, and then 5 weeks later in Dallas look like a completely different football team. That is completely possible.
Good.
But they also could get blown out.
You could get blown out in the shoe.
But you could get blown out in the shoe, losing Gainesville, and be stumbling, bumbling, falling into Dallas, and OU could have righted the ship.
This guys,
OU wins that game.
We've been on here for 1 hour and 20 minutes. We're going to get into more of this, later as this goes. But Jason, I just want to say I'm proud of you, man. You did not cuss one person out tonight, and you did not ask me to ban somebody or to remove them from the chat. Jason Watkins, you're that guy.
Hey, and putting out a top 25 is a brave thing.
It's a brave thing.
In May. I mean, I wouldn't do it.
Texas, he had Texas fans in shambles. He had them
in shambles.
On all types of emotion. Every emotion that was on the spectrum was out there. But
it's a good day, man. It's been a good day. Why would I have him leave? It's funny.
Nah, Colby, I just did that just to mess with you, bro. You good. But anyways, people, hit that like button, subscribe, do all those different things. You already know all 3 of these shows together, soon as Intel, Horns Down Podcast, soon as 360, Hall of Fame College Football with Coach and Jason. So that being said, people, we are out of here.